Right. Gabriel Kane Day-Lewis, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thanks for having me on your show.
Dude, it means so much, man. It's crazy, you know. We're coming up. I've known you for 6 years about now. I'd met you in 2016, and this is, you know, been such an interesting relationship because, like, you meet people in life, and sometimes, like, they're people that I've known since I'm 8, but I'm not that close to, you know what I mean? And then the people that you meet, and you just feel like you have such a fundamental understanding of one another.
Absolutely.
And your fundamental experiences and things, you just connect on such a profound level. And it's no secret that, you know, I deal with demons of, you know, sobriety and, you know, addiction and all of those things. And you were the only friend other than Will that, you know, was there at my rock bottom. Mm-hmm. And you were a total bro and a total gentleman. And we've come to be very great friends, and I really, you know, worship our friendship because it's hard to have that kind of understanding, you know, someone that was there at one of the worst moments of your life, and you've been a total bro, and you know, I love working out with you, man. You know, and all the positive things that we do, and we've laughed a lot, like watching stupid shit. Yeah. And I'm just so fucking proud of you, man. You just finished a movie, and I remember being, you know. We've seen a lot together, been a lot of different, you know, mental states, and dude, I'm just so proud of you. Man. When I saw you were doing that, man, it just, you know, I'm a struggling actor, man, and it just seeing you do it, man, it made me so happy, bro.
Thanks, Ryan.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. That means the world. And
yeah.
Listen, like I just want to take a second to celebrate you and your sobriety. You know, I'll start off by saying, like, when we met about 5 or 6 years ago, I think you'd been sober for a little bit.
99 days and I relapsed.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I was there the night you relapsed, the night you picked up a drink. Yeah. And I actually vividly remember saying to you, you do not look happy. Like, something's different.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Remember, I looked you. We were at some fashion week event in Paris, I believe.
The girl from my beautiful crush, Melanie Laurent.
That's right. She was there, looking beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And you were certainly crushing really hard.
Yeah.
I remember there was something. The light in your eyes had dimmed, and I remember feeling like something was off, and I didn't know you well, but
we just met. Yeah.
But you're so charismatic, and you've got so much life and energy and charisma about you that you make a very strong impression, you know, when you're sober. And so I met you when you were sober, and then we had that night out with our mutual friend Will. And I remember just seeing that there was something really off about your energy, and I said something to you about it, and I remember how your face fell when I said that, because I think that you had this sort of like realization in that moment that, you know, you had slipped, and that it showed, you know. And it wasn't something that just showed on a physical level. It's something that I felt, you know, because I myself also have struggled with addiction, and you know, it's something that I feel connected us, you know, from the get-go, and I could just feel the shift in your energy. And then I remember from that moment on, you made it your utmost priority to get back on the straight and narrow and to turn your life around. And like, look at you now, man. That light is back in your eyes. You look healthier than ever. That laugh, you know, I'm so glad that you made the conscious decision to turn your life around and get back on the horse, because only good things can happen from being sober. That's one thing that, you know, I've been sober and I've been out, as we call it. You know, I've been in active addiction, and hands down, sobriety is always the greatest gift, and only good things ever come from being sober. One thing that I've had to learn the hard way is that when I'm not sober, my life falls apart, my spirituality falls apart, and my ability to manage relationships, whether they be family relationships, romantic, or friendships, I'm just completely incapable of showing up for others and those that I care about. And multiple beautiful things that sobriety has offered me is a chance to really sort of tap into the power of prayer, and I pray from as a non-religious person. I wasn't raised religious, but the power of prayer, the power of meditation, understanding of a higher power, and sobriety is so much more than just abstinence. It's so much more than just not using drugs or drinking. As a coping mechanism, or as to seek relief. To me, I've learned how to be of service to others and show up for others in my life through being sober. And I know that you've been able to do the same, in your sobriety. And you're about to reach the 5-year mark of not picking up a drink. And it really shows. I feel it in your energy. I see it in your eyes. And I'm so proud of you, man.
I love you so much, man. Thank you for saying that. It's not been easy, as I'm sure you or anyone listening ever dealing with that knows, whether you're in or out of the rooms. And but let's talk about happy things and butterflies and Ireland. And so, dude, you grew up. Were you born in France or in Ireland, or where did you grow up?
So I always have a hard time answering that question. When people ask me where I'm from, because I bounced around a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
I was born in New York, but neither of my parents are American. My mom strategically came to New York City a few months into her pregnancy. Gave birth to me, and then whisked me back to Paris, which is where I grew up. My mom's French. So I spent the first third of my life there, and then I moved to live with my dad's side of the family about the age of 13. I moved to live with my dad's side of the family at about the age of 13. I lived in rural Ireland for a couple of years, went to school there, and was living with my stepbrothers, my half-brothers, and then from Ireland, we all moved to New York as a family. That was in 2011. I was 16.
Wow.
And I've been more or less based here ever since. So you could say I'm American by birth, half French, half Irish.
3 passports then?
So I don't have 2 European passports because one is sufficient.
Yeah.
I do have the option to get an Irish passport.
Bond is casting,
Man. Yeah. Listen about that. But yeah, I have a French passport and an American passport.
That's amazing, man. So then let's, we'll get to today eventually, but so when you grew up in France, do you have memories of that, or do they not? Because I don't know, we're at a certain age where you start to lose your childhood memories.
Sure.
And mine are very sparse, and I remember certain things and colors and textures. Do you have an awareness of growing up there? Was it in Paris you grew up, or?
So I was living in Paris from the age of 1 to 13.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can only remember as far back as about 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Anything before that is a little bit hazy. But yes, I do have a lot of memories of my time spent growing up in Paris, and I have a lot of memories from because I would go back there to visit my mother, and still do for the holidays, and just to when I started modeling, I would go out there for Fashion Week and for photo shoots. So I think the fresher and more vivid memories I have of Paris are the more recent ones. Of my time spent in the last years going there for work or for my mother and my older brother. But I do have some memories from being in middle school there, and some very fond ones at that too.
I was gonna ask, was it a good time? I
Yeah.
feel like I don't know what growing up in Paris would be like. Is that cool, or do you? I mean, you don't really have a way to compare it till later,
Well, so here's what I'll say to that. I think that now that I've really experienced New York, it would be hard for me to go back to Paris just because I fell completely head over heels in love with New York City when I moved here.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been here for 11 years. But I do love Paris. There are a lot of great things about that city. And I'm always happy to go there and spend time there, but I don't see myself ever moving back there.
Okay. Because you did when because while I've known you, you went back for a year, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember.
Yeah.
So I went back there for a year just because I felt like I needed to take a break from New York.
Yeah.
And I felt like there wasn't much left for me there. I think like once you've tasted New York, it's hard to go back, just that diversity, that, cultural
energy,
diversity and people from all walks of life. And it's this conveyor belt of it's this energetically charged conveyor belt of people from all around the world. And it's one big melting pot. And that's just something that New York is so specific and authentic to New York, which is very hard to find anywhere else. And I think that Paris is also obviously a major city, but it just doesn't offer that same diversity and acceptance and open-mindedness and progressiveness.
So the stereotypes are rooted in some kind of truth a little bit, or no, or
they are.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny, man. Well, so obviously both your parents are artists, and I'm curious at a young age, because like I knew you when I met you, you were doing a lot of music, like you had just by nature of your parents a lot of exposure to the arts. It goes one or two ways. You're either interested in them or you want nothing to do with it. As you were growing up, how were you feeling about it,
Yeah, I've always been, curious about the arts. I mean, I picked up my first instrument when I was 10, and I've been playing piano and guitar. I'm mostly self-taught, but I was writing songs.
And you sing?
When I was 13. Yeah, and I sing. We should call this episode a musician despairs. Because
that's what I'm calling it.
That's what it looked like for me.
Yeah.
I was dead set, tunnel vision, locked into the idea of becoming a musician, a singer-songwriter specifically.
Like Ed Sheeran style?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Actually, he's one of my biggest inspirations in terms of his songwriting.
Yeah.
I set out to become, an accomplished musician. I wanted nothing more than to share my music with the world. And, it's just such a competitive industry. Yeah. I went to Berklee College of Music for a little bit, and I found it really hard to keep up because most of my core classes were made up of theory, composition, ear training, harmony, music technology. And these are all things I had absolutely or little to no background in.
Right.
And I found myself sort of flailing to keep up with the workload, and I had no foundation of classical training whatsoever, and I just felt like I could feel myself falling behind, and really, sort of despairing.
Yeah.
And when I made the decision to leave Berklee, I continued pursuing a career in music. I was writing songs, I was collaborating, I was in the studio every week. And, year after year, I made plans to release songs that I then, went back on. And sometimes I released songs and actually like took them down from streaming platforms.
Yeah, you did like Ink in My Veins. Is that still available?
That's still available.
Yeah,
there are a couple songs you can still find on all the streaming platforms. But I don't know. There was an aspect of the vulnerability that comes with putting yourself out there with music that you've, written from the heart that just I feel like I lack the ability to make myself as vulnerable as it takes to, really be able to make a career out of it. And as time went by, I came to find that music actually had the adverse effect of like why I even started creating music and writing songs, which is for its therapeutic value. I found that it started stressing me out more than giving me that sense of relief that I found when I first started writing songs. And it was at that point when I realized that it was more stressful and creatively stifling, because of the pressures of like, because at the end of the day, like I still had to make a living. It was about my, it wasn't just about sharing music with the world. It was also about success, and I just found that the juice didn't feel like it was worth the squeeze in the end,
Yeah.
And sometimes I hear a great song on the radio, or I hear I have a few friends that are musicians that have been putting music out.
Your homie Dylan, right?
That's actually who I had in mind when I said that.
Yeah.
Dylan.
I knew it.
Dylan Hardigan is so talented, and he just put out his first album, and when I listened to it, I mean, I'd heard some of the songs before they came out, but when I heard the finished product, I just, when I heard his body of work, I couldn't help but wonder, what if I tapped back into it? What if I dipped my toe back into the music?
That's what great art does. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes you want to do that too.
Yeah. It's so good it should be mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I should have. I wish I'd written that song.
Yeah.
And nothing's to say that I can't eventually go back to my roots, and which are essentially music and writing songs, but. For the time being, I decided to explore a career change, and that's where I started making the transition into acting. And acting has been, I'm so in love with the films. I was raised on good cinema. I consider myself a cinephile. I'm very passionate about movies.
Particularly like real cinema, because your mother's a French actress, so you know all the great French films,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I was raised on really, really good French films, and then I moved in with my dad, and I started watching all the 90s Scorsese gangster movies.
Yeah. Did you ever get familiar with like Irish cinema? Is it
a little bit? Yeah. John Borman was a neighbor of ours, and he's a great Irish director, and Jim Sheridan's also a family friend. He's a big Irish producer, and I was definitely. I saw My Left Foot when I was, I think I was 14 or 15 the first time I saw that, and that is just such a beautiful piece of Irish cinema. And I'm not just saying that because my dad's in it, but
your dad. I'm just kidding.
Who? I read the Christy Moore's autobiography as well, and it's just such an amazing story. Geez, I don't know if you've seen the movie.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's amazing.
Anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked, but yeah, it's been so acting. To go back to your question about like the arts and what like.
Yeah, so let's to get there. Let's go from we talked about Paris. Let's go from 13 to 16 in Ireland. Do you remember those years?
Absolutely.
Like, what was it like going from such an urban, even though it's not maybe New York City conveyor belt energy, to a countryside town? Because I personally. I wouldn't deal with that well, that too much alone time for me is not good. How was that for you socially as a kid, educationally? Like, was that hard for you?
It was a drastic change, It was the difference between, growing up, going to an international school in the city of Paris to then, rural Ireland in the Wicklow Hills going
Public
to
school?
It was no, it wasn't a public school, but it was
Catholic.
it was a Catholic rugby playing school, and we all had to wear uniforms. That was a bit of a culture shock for me, but I love Ireland. I love the Irish. And also just to say, when I was in Paris, I was always, when I was in middle school, but I was always in our school plays and musicals. I played the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz.
Did you really? I could see that.
I played, could have fallen around, fallen on my butt. And I played Macbeth in a sort of like toned
No way.
down. Yeah, it was a middle school version of Macbeth.
We got to get one going together. I'll be Lady Macbeth. It'll be very
Oh man, yeah. My dad and my second youngest brother actually flew out to see me in that, which was such a nice memory.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, back to Ireland. I got really involved in the extracurricular program when I was there, and I was part of this amazing production of Guys and Dolls where I played Sky Masterson, which was such a fun experience.
Oh man, those school plays when you do musicals together, they're just like, it's such a good energy.
God, it's such a high. It was like 4 months of preparation for 2 matinees and 2 soirees, and next thing I know,
You're
done.
despairing, and it's so sad. I miss my friends.
Straight back into the despair.
I know it well, dude. Bye Bye Birdie was mine.
4 months of prep work for 2 days of performances.
Oh,
and
God.
I didn't
But those
know
nights
what
are
to
so
do with
fun.
myself. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's some of the best experiences of my life.
And did I don't, forgive me. I know a little bit about Irish history, but like geographically, you were in the north or the south? Or
Southwest.
Southwest.
Yep.
So were you traveling much around Ireland, or?
Not really. We went to the Kerry Film Festival one year, and then my dad's side of the family is very partial to the west of Ireland. It's beautiful. It's on the coast, and so we've been there a little bit as well. But no, we were mostly just home based.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then were you like obviously having that, plays over time? Like, were you playing music and writing a lot then, or what
Yes.
that was your artistic outlet mode?
Yeah, we had a my younger brother. He was playing piano at the time. We had this amazing grand piano in our living room, and
Nice.
so I'd write a lot of songs on that. And I was in the school choir. I actually sang with Hosier.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah. When I first moved to Ireland and I went to my school, St. Jared's, Hosier was a 6th year, which is the equivalent of 12th grade, and I joined the school choir, and he was the lead singer in the school choir. So
Wow.
yeah, right before he
Take me
graduated.
to church.
Oh, he took us there.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, and then he went off to become an amazing singer-songwriter superstar, pride of Ireland.
Wait, is your dad British, Irish, or Irish?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
he's half and half.
So do you spend much time in London at all, or not really?
Not really. I mean, I like England, but I think Ireland's just what I was sort of introduced to as a kid, and
Yeah.
that's where I love to spend time. When I go back to that part of the world.
Yeah.
I haven't. I mean, aside from some of the work that I've done in fashion and some family get-togethers, I haven't spent that much time in England or London.
That's where I hit my bottom, actually. So
Is it?
Yeah. Well, that's where I almost died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I remember that story. My God, you were in that
We were
hotel
FaceTiming.
room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
You don't. Isn't it great that you don't have to
Oh,
live like
God,
that
dude.
anymore?
just thinking about it makes me want to.
Yeah.
But I'm curious then. Obviously, Ireland, Paris. Like, did you ever have a relationship with theater? Because I know you did Guys and Dolls and Macbeth. Like, did you like other plays? Like, I don't know, like there will what is it? Streetcar Named Desire, things like that.
Yeah. So the only relationship I've ever really had with theater was the theater experience that I got in middle and high school.
Yeah.
But every year I was always in the play. I always auditioned for it, and I really enjoyed. I've never worked as a professional theater actor, but the work that I did do as a teenager, at the schools that I went to, I really enjoyed, and it's something I would be completely open to doing again.
Yeah.
I think theater is like
I'm writing a play now, so I'll call you.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm curious then, man. I mean, talk to me because I've heard about it in movies and friends doing it, but I always find to be like people that have to move in at 16 to probably be the hardest thing you could ever put a kid or a teenager through, because it's just like that's when you know your friends and things like that. And I'm not saying that is any bad look on parents. It happened to you, and usually that's like military or arts, So
Yeah.
when that happened for you, was that a hard time to go from like having a footing in Paris, then having a footing in Ireland, to then having to reestablish yourself in New York?
I mean, listen, I think I lacked some stability there, but I will say, like, when I moved in with my dad's side of the family, there's such we're such a tight knit and loving family. It made the transition that much more seamless. Obviously, as a kid,
You've got
like,
a great stepmother as well.
oh,
right?
she's the best. Yeah, she's like a second mother,
Yeah.
and we're very close. She totally negates all that stereotype of the evil
totally.
stepmother.
Yeah,
She's like the
yeah.
polar opposite. But yeah, my family just really welcomed me with open arms when I moved there, and it made the transition a little bit easier. But it goes without saying. I mean, obviously, I had a hard time leaving my friends in Paris behind, and then when I moved to New York, it was hard for me to leave my friends in Ireland and in Europe behind. I still had Facebook at the time. Like, with social media, it made it a little bit easier to stay in touch and stay connected. But I think that I do have a pretty good ability to adapt, and I think I had to, it definitely took a little bit of time, in each new place to, acclimate and familiarize myself with my surroundings and the people and the, because and the etiquette, like etiquette is different here than it is in Paris than it is in Ireland,
Totally different.
So I had to mold myself a little bit and adapt in that sense, but it was fine. It was fine, and for what it's worth, I'm really glad that I got to see the world through different lenses per se.
I mean, what a great experience to have as a human,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think it's safe to say that I wouldn't be the person that I am today without the experiences that I've had over the course of my life, and living in different countries has had a big impact and played a very important role in shaping me into the person I am today.
That's so beautiful, man. And when you moved here, was it still very much music you were focused on, or were you at this point thinking about acting?
I think acting's always been in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
It's always been something that I just when you love something so much the way that I love film, you want to contribute to it.
Totally.
In some way, shape, or form, you want to be able to contribute to an art that you're so passionate about, and I think that because that spark, has always been there for me with film, part of me has always wanted to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, and it's also just in your blood. You got a mom and a dad, you
yeah,
know?
And like you said, you're either going to follow in their footsteps or you're going to run for the hills.
Yeah, you're going to, yeah, totally.
And so, yeah, when I moved to, to answer your question, when I moved to New York, I was definitely still, focused on music primarily and hoping to make a career for myself as a singer-songwriter, but as time went by, like I said to you earlier, I started feeling the monumental pressure of the music industry and feeling like
Was Berkeley like your ultimatum, like to get there?
I mean, I think that ironically, when I got into Berkeley, I thought to myself, I really have a chance. I really have an opportunity to pursue this. Because it felt like a big deal because I got in, based on my audition of an original song, and then when I got there, I had the opposite feeling. It was like I said, like I was falling behind in my classes, and I'm self-taught on everything, and all of a sudden I was expected to keep up with.
People that know how to, treble clef, bass clef, like just can just do.
I still don't know what that means. And it was at that point that I think it sort of started going downhill from there. And I really tried to keep pursuing it, and I still write songs. Here's the last thing I'll say about music. I think that ever since I decided to take a step back from being a musician, I've found that joy and therapeutic value in writing songs again. Like now when I write songs, there's no pressure for it to be anything but just an outlet, a creative outlet, to express how I feel through music.
That's beautiful, man. And I'm curious because, like, obviously you and I have worked out so many times together. Was athleticism always like a part of your life? Like, because I know you box a lot. Like, and obviously just because you have the body, like you're a runner. Like, was that always a part of your life, or is that something that came later?
Yeah, it definitely came later. When I was a kid, I the idea of like being an athlete or going to the gym never really appealed.
Is just exhausting.
Oh, forget about it. I was always amazed, but my dad's a very disciplined athlete. He trains.
He was a runner, right?
He was a runner, and he was a boxer, and he trains every day. It's amazing, and he's in such great shape and so healthy, and I never saw that for myself. And then I think it all started when I got into rugby living in Ireland, and I joined the rugby team, and from there on out, I just got more and more into fitness, and then I got into weights training. I got into circuit training. I'm a big hit guy, and boxing when I moved to New York. I love boxing. It's such a great way to blow off steam. But now, I mean, obviously with the modeling and the work that I've done in fashion, there were certain expectations for me to be in shape.
Where did that come in? Talk to me about when did because obviously in Paris you're, I'm sure with your mom going to shows and things like that, or with your dad even, but when did you finally like get an agent and start? Because like you could do that like 14, 15, right? Or you can start.
Yeah, I think now kids are modeling when they're 14.
Yeah, Kaya was doing it like at 13.
Yeah,
right?
She started pretty young.
Yeah.
That would never have been in the cards for me, just because I was raised in a pretty sheltered environment.
Yeah.
And I know that my parents would have never wanted me to be exposed to
the darkness of that.
The darkness.
Yeah. I will say though, rest in peace, Virgil. That's very sad.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Virgil. I saw the news yesterday, and I actually never met him, but from what I hear and what I read, he was he was so driven and passionate, and just such a role model for so many people. But
I had a 5-second high and by with him, but he seemed like a genuine dude, so uncorroded by the pretentiousness of that side of the world, and it was just so cool to see that energy, because it's like,
absolutely,
I was like, wow, he seems like a really good guy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
As I mean, so talk to me when you did get into that. Like, I've always wanted to ask this, so I'm glad. I guess you're the first model I've had. Like, do you see? Because like to take a photo is not a good one. It is like there is an exercise. It's not easy, to model, so to speak. It's not just obviously like the cliches of being skinny. Like, did you see that as performing in a way?
To an extent, I think that, I've always been signed to my agency as a talent, which I think has more often than not given me a little bit more freedom in terms of how I, because I think that in fashion, it can be a bit not dictatorial, but I think that, certain creative directors and photographers have a very specific a vision and image in mind, and so they sort of just push you to create that for them, Whereas I feel like as a talent, I was able to channel a little bit more of myself and my, and it's here's what I'll say. I started modeling when I was 19, and
so it was after 18 when you got started.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Wow,
yeah, I was already 19, and I wasn't booking anything for I was a model despairs too.
Zoolander 2, starring Gabriel Kane Day-Lewis and Ryan Perez.
And I didn't book anything for the first like 7 or 8 months of being signed, and I had half a mind to just tell my agency, like, listen, I
got
just
better things to do.
Or maybe I'm just not cut out for this. And then I booked my first job, and it all happened so quickly. For the next 2 or 3 years, I was jet setting, shooting all these campaigns, attending all these events, sitting front row at fashion shows. And
was that fun? Like,
it was until it wasn't.
Yeah,
totally. It's just I enjoy fashion. I'm not passionate about it. But yeah, the thing, working in fashion, it was a lot of fun, but it was a lonely lifestyle. I was traveling to a new place like every week or every other week, and I was spending a couple days at a time alone in a hotel room, and there was something isolating and alienating about that. And I have to say, I got imposter syndrome quite a bit as well. I feel like I don't look like the typical model, and I was often it created a comparison to others where there wasn't one.
Did you
initially
feel like you experienced, maybe not even just in modeling, but like people having animosity towards you because of your last name?
Absolutely, yeah. I was accused of nepotism like all the time. Just another. Hollywood.
By nature of anything, because of that, it's so, I get it, man. I've had so many people in the show, Jack Houston and others that have talked about it. It's so tough.
And listen, people are free to, voice their opinions and believe what they will, at the end of the day, like, it was paying the bills for me, and I wasn't going to
I've
stop
known you. Like,
yeah.
we both work very hard. Like, we both had survival jobs. Like, it's not like glitz glamour. We're staying at, the Bowery Hotel. Love the
No.
Bowery, though. But, man, like...
I've been broke as much as I've been flush. You know?
Yeah.
I think people often have a
they think it's private jets and
yeah,
Oscars,
yeah.
and it's not.
And I've had it good, and I'm very fortunate to have been raised, in the settings that I was. But I've been financially independent since I was 19, and it's not always been easy. It's actually been, stressful, and I'm just trying to make ends meet, and that's why I got into modeling. I got into modeling because I had bills to pay,
And when you were interested in the arts, were both your mom and your dad receptive to it? Because like, I feel like, those people that have done the journey, they know how hard it can be. So inadvertently, it can be like, this shit sucks. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think that, both my parents will always support me as long as I'm, putting in the work.
Yeah.
And as long as they see that it's something that I'm serious and passionate about, and that isn't just a fad,
Right.
But and they've been, when I told them about this first film that I booked, they were...
Can you, I know there was a Deadline article, but can you tell people what it is and what you just got done doing?
Yeah, with pleasure. So I just wrapped my first feature film, which is called Terror on the Prairie.
Shot in Montana?
Yeah, we shot it in Montana near Yellowstone.
Wow.
It's directed by Michael Polish. It's produced by Bonfire Legends, and man, it was such a...
How did this come your way?
Well, I had a Zoom call with the director in September, and I'd read the script, and I found it very appealing.
Yeah.
And we
it's a
Western,
a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Western. Yeah, it's based in the it's set in the 1860s. It's post-Civil War. And it's about a group of 4 outlaws that are terrorizing this family that just built their new home,
Wow.
a pioneering family. And I play the kid. That's my character's name, and I'm one of the outlaws. And we had so much fun. It was the best possible introductory experience to...
That was your first long form piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
was it just...
I've acted in some shorts, and I was in a feature film with a French-speaking feature film with my mother when I was a kid.
Got it.
But I was just a kid, and
You never did any of your dad stuff?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Wow, that's crazy. And so then when you were here, you get the script and you get this call. We're in this pandemic.
Yeah.
Was there a question mark about when that project would even go?
No, they were ready to go.
Oh, they
man.
were.
Yeah, I had the call with the director in September, and in first week of October, I was in Montana.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk to me about on that flight there. Were you just like, I'm doing this? Like,
well, I mentioned Imposter Syndrome, with the modeling, and I most definitely felt it for acting. I was like,
especially like given your dad's reputation, I'm sure by nature everyone expects some crazy method guy to walk in. And,
I was like, I actually stayed in character while we were shooting. As long as I was on set, I was in character. As soon as I put that costume on in the morning, I was the kid, and I was the kid until we were done for the day. And I think that at the end of the day, I think I was putting more pressure on myself than I needed to, because I felt like I had,
expectations
something
to
to live up to, and shoes to fill. So the first week I got there, we did all the prep work. It was like pre-production. We were doing firearms training. We were doing horseback riding. We were doing table reads and chemistry reads and et cetera. And I was getting nervous. I was getting really, really nervous. Yeah. And I remember my first day of shooting went so unbelievably well. And, the director texted my manager telling him that, he was so happy. It was brilliant. And those are his words. And that gave me a boost of confidence. And from there on out, I told myself, I affirmed to myself that I had earned to be there, and
You
that
did,
I
man. I've watched the work. You know, I was so proud of you, dude.
and I'm really happy. I feel like I gave it everything. I left everything out there.
Yeah.
And you know, we were it was an intense shoot. I mean,
It looked like, and it was. I mean, not that it was your production, but it was in the middle of the Rust tragedy. You know.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, you know, just to touch on, you know, like how it looked for us out there, you know, it was 30-degree weather. We're riding around in the snow. We're freezing cold, you know.
Yeah.
And
So you're kind of living the life of the character, you know.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that those conditions that we shot in really brought out the grit in the characters. And this movie's a thriller. I mean, it's a gory, crazy, action-packed thriller. And I think that those conditions we shot in really brought out performances that might not have been there if it weren't for the 12-hour days that we were shooting, the horseback riding in 30-degree weather, and you know, we were 7,000 feet elevated in altitude, and we were running around with these like 20-pound rifles, like uphill sprints, and you know, it was so much adrenaline pumping too, because we were being shot at and we were shooting back and returning fire, and you know, there were explosions. I mean, I don't want to give too much of it away. The trailer comes out in January.
Oh,
the film
dude,
comes out next spring.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be a good one. But
You got to come back when that's out.
oh, I'd love to.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
Yeah.
What was you'd asked me a question? What was it? Just to circle back. Do you? It was just now.
Well, I guess like I don't know. We'll move on from that. But
sure.
So you do this experience. It's your first movie, right? Do you leave this just like so hungry for more? You know?
Yeah. Well, you know what ended up happening is the same thing that would happen when we would be like preparing a school play for 4 months, and then we'd have 2 days to perform, and then it was done.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do with
it was
myself?
like shit.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's sort of what happened with this film. It's like you get this incredible high, and then I wrapped and I just crashed.
Yeah.
I crashed, but I was bit by the bug. I know that I want to keep pursuing this. You know, I've been auditioning for stuff for 6 years, and I think that this project could finally get the ball rolling. It's the first thing anybody's ever going to see me act in, and I'm really happy with the work that I did, and I hope that, and I really hope that you know, things start happening, you know, for me in film. But yeah, it was such a low when we wrapped, and you know, a couple weeks after we wrapped, I found out that my friend Heath Freeman, you know, who was my co-star on the film, and he was like an older stepbrother, and we had this incredible bond. I actually spent about a week at his place. We were getting up at 6 a.m., working out, juicing, and then going to set together, running lines together, going to the Bozeman Hot Springs together. One day there was a snowstorm. We got stuck in his truck for like 6 hours on the highway. And, you know, all that to say that I found out that he passed away tragically. He was in his late 40s. He was an incredible actor. I mean, watching him work was such an honor. And he really he was like a mentor, an older brother, a dad figure, whatever you want to call it. We were very close, and I looked up to him, and I was heartbroken, you know, finding out that he had passed away. It was really sad for me, and I'm
really sorry.
And thank you. And you know, I'm gutted that he won't be here to see the work that we did together. Yeah. I talked to the producer and the director last week, and they said that they were able to show him a sizzle reel at the wrap party, which I wasn't there for, but at least, you know, he passed knowing that he'd, you know, apparently he cried when he saw the sizzle reel. He was bawling his eyes out. That's what the producer Dallas told me. And you know, I think he was a despairing actor too. I think, you know, I don't want to speak for him, but I think that it was really hard for him to get work over the years.
So
you and I both.
Yeah.
And this project really gave him a chance to shine, and I can't wait to see his beautiful face in this movie that we made together.
That's so beautiful, man. And I'm curious, you know, obviously growing up as such amazing artists as parents, you know, I'm sure that curated the best like cinema for you and things like that. Do you feel like now living in this content saturated time where like Netflix has got a show, Hulu's got a show, Essential Water's got a show, like do you feel like you get seen for more things, or it's because it's so crowded now it's harder to get in for things?
You know, I'm actually very, very picky and selective about the stuff that I even tape for.
Yeah.
I think like I always made that decision to just, not just read for everything that got sent my way. My manager, Oren, is so great about, sifting through the stuff that he feels like
You're not gonna do Gossip Girl, you know. No offense to Gossip Girl.
Yeah. Maybe the original.
Yeah, we'll bring that back.
Yeah, but no, I was very clear with my manager, from the get go that I wanted to do, like high quality projects like roles that I could really sink my teeth into, and like a good script, a good director, and a good cast, and a role that I feel like I can really throw myself into.
Totally.
It has always been, what I've wanted, and obviously, like, if I do decide that I'm going to drop everything to become an actor, and it's going to become my livelihood, I might not have the luxury of, picking and cherry picking what I read for,
Yeah.
Exactly. I have to make a living at the end of the day, but it is very important to me that I am invested in the work that I'm doing, and so to answer your question, like, I think I've always been so selective, about the stuff that I've gone to audition for or read or tape for.
And I'm sure you learned that from your parents too, just like by taste making, like what's, what are good things and what aren't the greatest things,
Absolutely. And I feel like maybe my, selectiveness could be misconstrued as like arrogance or being overly confident, but it's not that. It's just that I love film so much that I don't want to be a part of something that I don't love.
No, of course.
So it's more out of respect for the work than out of my ego. It's nothing to do with my ego. It's everything to do with my love for cinema. So
that's beautiful, man. Do you feel, because we did touch on this earlier, that theater, if it did come calling, like if I'm doing, I don't know, The Crucible, I know your dad did the movie, but like, would you ever do a play? Do you
Hell yeah.
Like you would?
Yeah. I think that most great actors it's almost like a rite of passage.
It's imperative, I think.
Yeah. You have to do theater. Both my mom and my dad have been huge.
Didn't you say, like, you texted me like a year ago that your mom was in a play here?
Yeah,
wasn't she?
She was.
Yeah.
She was. She was in I think it's the first time she's ever actually performed on stage in the United States.
Wow.
But I sadly never got a chance to see that play.
Yeah.
I heard wonderful things. I had a couple friends. I was in France.
I know, you texted me and I was like, I don't know your mom. I don't want
to. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had she asked me if I had any friends in New York that wanted to go see. And it's a shame you didn't.
Yeah.
But, hopefully the opportunity presents itself again. But yeah, theater is something I'm so open to, willing to, and eager to do.
Yeah.
And I think, you don't get a second chance in theater.
No.
That's the thing that really sets it apart from. It's like you're there in that moment, live. Coming at you from the stage. It's not, okay, let's go again. There's no let's go again. It's like it has to go the way it needs to go now.
And I think your selectivity, as with any actor listening, can relate. It's like it's a form of commitment, right? Like you don't want to commit yourself to something that you're not that interested in doing, because like if I'm taking a pottery class in, I don't know, Long Island, I'm not that into it. But if I there's something more interesting, like a exercise class here that's in my lane, then I'll want to do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that pottery's bad. It's
just the thing about film is, there are a lot of moving parts, and when you commit to something, you're not just committing yourself, you're committing to a huge group of people that have come together
100+
to make this, and I it certainly wouldn't be fair to anybody involved in a project if I wasn't there giving 110%, because I wasn't fully immersed in that work, and I think it's safe to say that like the only times that I'm ever going to audition or tape for something is when I really feel like I can give myself to that project.
Do you feel a need to separate yourself from the legends that and the myths that are your parents, you know, about like and build your own thing because like you don't want to be people expect this or people expect that because of her. Like, has that been also part of your process of choosing? Like, you want to create your own narrative for Gabriel?
I think so. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean,
and that's not disrespecting their careers at all. It's just wanting to be yourself.
No,
you know?
for sure. I listen. I don't think that I don't think I think like that. I mean, yes. Like, ideally, I'd like to be seen as my own person who's blazed his own trail and made a career of his own for himself. But I think that like there are certain things and critiques and comparisons that are going to be inevitable for someone that's in my position.
And how do you deal with that?
I just shrug it off, man. It's I can't change the hand I was dealt.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, and I can only try to make the most of it and the best of it, and you know what? Like I learned a long time ago to just ignore what people like. I know my truth. I know what I'm passionate about. I know how I feel about any given thing, and if people, you know, if I get accused of nepotism or if I get compared to, listen, like, I mean, even being compared to my parents is an honor because they are the fucking
the best of what they do,
incredible actors,
literally,
you know, in my eyes. And so you know what, if that's as bad as it gets for me being compared to the work that they've done in their amazing careers, then I'll take it.
That's back to the athleticism parts, man. You know, like you and I have had so much fun working out together, you know. For those, like, you know, people know what I've done, but like for you getting into fitness late like I did, what advice would you have for people out there that like do get into this later like you and I both did?
I think you know, I have a tendency to try and take on more than I can like handle. You know, I'm very into extremes. You know, I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, and like, you know, I had a back injury at one point and a shoulder injury, and I had to take close to 6 months off, you know, working out. And when I went back into the gym, I basically tried like doing all this stuff that I was doing when I was at my most fit, you know, and it was discouraging, you know, because I was trying to do things that I wasn't physically capable of. And so, you know, the best advice I could give to anybody getting into fitness at any point in their lives is just brick by brick, you know, and it happens faster than you'd think, but you just have to ease into it because otherwise you're putting yourself at risk of biting off more than you can chew and discouraging yourself and just like throwing in the towel. And I'm guilty of that as well, but you know, I've definitely learned that, like, you know, easing into a routine and building up fitness and strength and endurance takes a little bit of time. You know, it's called conditioning. But once you get that conditioning down, you'd be amazed at what your body can do.
Totally.
And I you know, I have to work out in the mornings. It helps with anxiety. It helps reduce stress and decrease cortisol levels, and it releases endorphins, and it makes me feel good, you know, like I worked out this morning and I feel great, you know. It's like it really does affect my mental health in a very positive way, and it's been very important for my sobriety as well, you know, amongst other things.
That's so beautiful, man. And I'm curious, what have you been listening to recently? Like, what's inspiring you?
Music?
Yeah, or film, you know, like, what are you watching?
Dude, so there is one song that I've had on repeat. It's by Juliette Armanet. It's spelled Juliette.
Okay.
And the last name is Armanet.
Yeah.
And her single from her new album called Le Dernier Jour du Disco is just such a fucking great bop. Wow. It's such a fun tune, and I love hearing sound like this come out of France. You know, it's not typical to French like music
Yeah,
culture.
other than like
and-
Edith Piaf, I can't name. So
well, this is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is definitely a little bit more like contemporary and popular.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
than Piaf,
Yeah.
but no, it's a fantastic song, and she's very talented. I've been following her for a little bit now, and I've been listening to Adele's new album, Ed Sheeran's new
Nice.
album. They're both singer-songwriters that I really look up to and admire for their work. And
You working out to music, is that a big thing for you?
yeah, so the music I listen to when I work out is very different to the music I listen to when I'm at home or walking
Same.
around the city. It's song there are a couple songs by Justice,
Oh yeah,
that
totally.
they
Daft
get me
Punk, Jazz, Justice. With
Yup,
yeah.
they get me amped up.
Yeah.
So I listen to music that airs more on the electronic side when I'm working out, stuff with like heavy drums and drops and stuff. They just get me pumped.
Yeah.
But when I'm in my downtime, I listen to lyrical, melodic songwriter.
Lyrics are important to you because you're a songwriter, I imagine.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Lyrics are very important to me.
it's poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That-
And there's something I think there's just like film or just like, painting or other forms of art, there's an element to music that transports you, and it's like it touches on a memory, like it touches on an emotion and it's relatable, and it's I love for me, like art is meant to be evocative. Like any form of art that has evoked any kind of emotion has done its job,
Yeah.
whether it's feeling happy, sad, energized, heartbroken, nostalgic, whatever it may be. I think that any kind of art, and in this case specifically music, that evokes any kind of emotion is really, doing what it's meant to do. So
That's beautiful, man. And I'm curious, now that you had this incredible experience and many more to come, I know, do you have some goals, because we're close to 2022
Yeah.
right now, like in the new year, do you have some things you really want to get done creatively, whether musically or film or anything,
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan is to keep exploring my curiosity for film.
Yeah.
Would
you ever direct?
I don't know that I would.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would. My brother Ronan went to Yale for film directing, and
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he, I see. I mean, like, listen, if I decided to undertake anything as a director, as a scriptwriter, there would be a lot of prep work.
Yeah.
It's not something you just pick up overnight.
It's not like acting you can do where you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is.
But and that being said,
Yeah.
there still is a lot of work that goes
of
into
course,
getting
I'm
ready
not
for.
diminishing it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, I hear you. But like, the technicality of directing is it's honestly such an impressive job. Like,
I mean, Paul Thomas at Licorice Pizza,
I
Sean
haven't seen
Baker.
that yet. Is it good?
I haven't seen it, but I hear it's amazing. But I'm such a big fan of his work, and what those guys do. I mean, it is to create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Is that I mean, acting at least their lines. You know what I mean? Like it's true innovation. I think.
Absolutely.
And dude, I'm just so fucking proud of you, brother. Like, it's great to see
Thanks,
you,
man.
and your energy's radiant and vibing. And dude, we gotta work out and we gotta take over together, man. I'm just so proud of you, dude. The best
Thank
is yet
you.
to come, brother.
Well, I hope that as a fellow, as one, from one despairing actor to another, I hope that we one day get a chance to work on something together.
Oh, we will. But this is the final question, and I ask it to everyone that's on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And to all the Gabriels or the Ryans out there that maybe aren't in the rooms or struggling and have dreams and don't know how to pursue it and don't know how to stop using or don't know how to just focus or get
Yep.
their head right. Any words of wisdom you might have for those out there struggling to find their footing?
I think that changing your environment, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your physical environment in the sense that like you have to move across the country, but changing the people and the places that you frequent and the things that you do can have a really large impact. I think, we are the product of our environment, you know, and I think, and I truly believe that. I think that whatever we surround ourselves with is going to be very impactful on the kind of people that we are and the things that we do and the habits that we create for ourselves. So I think if we surround ourselves with people that are driven, passionate, focused, serious, healthy, and enhance your quality of life, then the chances of you being successful in the things that you set out to do are that much higher. I think that, you know, for anybody struggling with whether it be, you know, substance abuse or career related, or romantically with or with friends or with family or anything, even school, I think that just creating new habits and not being hard on yourself. I think, you know, it's human tendency to, you know, we're all our own toughest critics, and I can speak for myself and say that I'm very tough. I've been very tough on myself over the years, and I find that, like, just, you know, progress, not perfection, and really being patient. You know, things don't happen overnight. There's no such thing as an overnight success. Anybody that you might consider to have had an overnight success, that's 10 years of working, you know, leading up to that. And I think that just be patient, you know, be easy on yourself, and surround yourself with love, positivity, and good energy, and the rest will happen.
Well, I love you, dude. Thank you for being there for me, man. You've been a great friend. I fucking love you, dude. We will work together on something, and dude, come back on when this is out, and I'm so fucking thrilled for you, man. And I'm just gonna say, to be continued.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
Thanks, Ryan.